classifying research designs, students, we must know that how can we classify our research design and how can we decide the best possible, the strongest research design for our studies. In order to decide that which design suits your study the most, you must know 3 continua, right? So in this session, we are going to discuss that what are those 3 continua and how would we decide about the nature of our study, right? So it is important for the classification of any research study that how can we decide about the nature of the study in terms of these 3 possibilities, right? So the first continuum is, the decision between basic and applied, right? So basic is a study which is purely theoretical, right? And applied is a study where those models and theories which were created using the basic, the theoretical research are applied for the solution of a problem, right? So this is one continuum. And then we have second continuum, that whether our study is going to be qualitative or quantitative, right? So we as a researcher would decide that how is our data going to work for our research question. How can we have the most useful answers, the best possible answers? Are we required to go for a qualitative data collection tool or a quantitative data collection tool? Is the nature of study required to be qualitative or quantitative? Qualitative, when we are required to have an in-depth analysis, an information-rich paradigm. And quantitative study, when our focus is mainly on the possibility of the representativeness of the data, right? So that is representative sampling paradigm, okay? So we must also know that how quantitative is different than qualitative, and how can we make a blend of both. In what studies are we required to go for, such a possibility when we have both of the portions applied in the study, both qualitative data collection and then quantitative data collection. So we must also know this continuum. And then there is a third continuum, which is regarding the exploratory and confirmatory study, right? So this is a continuum which would tell us that whether we are going to test a hypothesis, right? Are we going to confirm something which has already been proposed, right? And in the form of a suggestion, in the form of a hypothesis, or whatever is the form, but we are going to confirm it, right? In the second possibility, which is exploratory study, for exploratory study, we are going to explore a phenomena which does not have any hypothesis right now, right? And it may be the case that it is going to study a phenomena which has not been thoroughly explored earlier, right? So this is another continuum which must be known to researchers, okay? So how can we explore? So let me just take you to this figure which is given in your textbook by Fred Perry, and we are going to know that how these continua, how they intersect with each other, right? And how can these 3 possibilities in terms of basic applied and qualitative quantitative and finally exploratory confirmatory, how they are going to classify our study. So for the classification of the study, we must know that how these continua are going to work. So let me just take you to this figure. It is the figure, this continua, it is basically from basic to applied. On one end, it is basic, and on the other end, it is applied, right? Then we have this continuum, exploratory, confirmatory, and then qualitative and quantitative. So let's suppose your study is basic, and you have collected your data qualitatively, right? And then you are exploring for the first time something, right? So you are not testing any hypothesis, right? So this is actually these dotted arrows. These dotted arrows show your nature of the study, that how you are going to make it more of a basic nature and exploratory study where you collected your data through qualitative studies, right? So these continua are there, and we must be able to know the nature of study from these 3 possibilities. We would explore these continua in the sessions, in the coming sessions, and we would comment that how a study is basic and what are the general types of studies which are called basic studies, and how can we have an exploratory study and the nature of exploratory, and how at the same time our qualitative quantitative continuum is going to work, right? So your study may be placed anywhere on this figure. It may be in the center, right? Or it may be on quantitative end and confirmatory, right? So this classification is giving you the hints that what's the nature of your study and what class of your research design is to be decided and finalized.